We'll kick off this episode of Counterpoints with a special interview. Ehud Olmert served as the Israeli Prime Minister between 2006 and 2009. For a time, he was part of the Likud party, the same political party as current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But in a bold departure from his successor, he slammed the ongoing war in Gaza, even describing the current Israeli government as the enemy within. It's not normal for former Israeli prime ministers to speak out in this kind of manner, but perhaps these aren't exactly normal times. Joining me now, and I thank him for his time, Mr. Olmert, thanks for joining us here on Counterpoints. I want to start by getting your assessment on the current situation we've been seeing at food distribution points across Gaza. News that over the past 3 days, almost 70 people have been killed. As the former leader of your country, what's your assessment of that?
Well, I think it's been said time and again, and I said it also, that at this stage, the war should end immediately. I don't think that there is any major objective which deserves the expansion of the military operation and the cost of the military operation, the cost for Israeli soldiers, the possible loss of hostages, and the loss of lives of Palestinians, non-involved Palestinians. The war from the very beginning, on the 8th of October, was absolutely justified. And I, amongst all of the Israelis, was completely in favor of trying to reach out and destroy the military capacity of Hamas because of what they have perpetrated against thousands of Israeli innocent people in their homes, in the living rooms, in the bedrooms, in the safe rooms, in the most brutal manner, butchering, beheading, raping children, mothers, elderly people. Terrible. And now it's after 20 months of fighting. And I think that we have achieved as much as can be achieved in the military operation against a terrorist organization. At the present time, the majority of Israelis, not just me, but a majority of Israelis, I'm just a voice for many of them, because you wouldn't pick up someone in the street and interview him, but you do with me for obvious reasons. But the majority of Israelis think that this war is unnecessary, is not going to achieve the release of the hostages, and it just causes terrible problems for us, losing soldiers, possibly losing the hostages, and also killing non-involved people amongst the Palestinians. And this is to end now.
When you, in the opinion piece you wrote for the Israeli press, Haaretz, when you wrote that you now believe that Israel is committing war crimes, what is it that, what event, what was it that you witnessed that was the turning point for you? What changed your opinion?
Well, first of all, it must be clear, and I didn't write any other way, that there is not a policy, not by the government, certainly not by the army, of indiscriminately killing people just because of the fun of killing people. But what disturbs me a great deal, and to many Israelis, is that there is a universal agreement in Israel that the war is not needed. Some go as far as saying, which I don't disagree, that the reason that the Prime Minister doesn't stop the war is because of personal political interest of the Prime Minister and not the real national security interest of the State of Israel. Under such circumstances, the loss of lives from all sides, from our side, possibly the hostages and non-involved Palestinians, is a crime, is something that can't be prolonged and has to stop right away. Also, which is a major source of my concern, I have to say, is the acts of violence perpetrated by the Hilltop youth in the West Bank against innocent Palestinians, burning their houses, their properties, the olive groves in such a brutal manner without an appropriate reaction by the Israeli police and the Israeli army is not something that can be tolerated and is not something that can be forgiven.
So can I extrapolate from that? Your concerns aren't just what's happening in Gaza. Is your concern, has it been what has allowed to become accepted as normal behaviour? Again,
I have to emphasize, I really don't know, and I don't think, and I therefore never say, that there has been any direct policy by the government or any order by the high command of the Israeli army to shoot indiscriminately, to bomb indiscriminately and kill regardless of what may be the possible, who may be the possible victims of this. No. But when it is widely accepted that the war is not necessary, when so many Israelis, commentators, observers, former generals, commanders of the IDF and the Mossad and the Secret Service say that the war should end now, and expanding the war and continuing the military operations cost the lives of so many people unnecessarily, this is something that can't be tolerated. It has to be criticized. And I am prepared to speak up for all those that feel that way and believe that it needs to be criticized and stopped.
When there are accusations of war crimes, it's a serious accusation and it implies that there is a guilty party. So where do you think the guilt should lie? Is this the government as a whole? Is it Mr. Netanyahu for leading this government? Is it the IDF? Where do you think the guilt is here?
Look, first of all, I have to say, I'm not an investigator, and I'm not in the process of inquiring on a daily basis, every hour, what happens in any particular section of Gaza and the military operations. What I say is on a broad basis, the very fact that the war continues and there are so many unnecessary victims is something that can't be tolerated and has to stop. And the one person that is personally, directly, individually responsible for it is the one that carries the government with him and forces these decisions on the government and the army, and this is the Prime Minister.
Do you believe this goes as far as genocide?
No, I don't think, I never said so, I don't think so. But look, you don't have to push things, into the very extreme and draw comparisons between what happened in history to the Jewish people, which was entirely different ideologically and practically in terms of the outcome, in terms of the massive operations and whatnot, in order to criticize what happens today. What happens today is something that needs to stop right away, and that the number of victims is far beyond what can be tolerated and accepted. And that's what I'm saying.
Another former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, has called for a civil insurrection to topple the Israeli government, and the Prime Minister himself, Netanyahu, he's called for non-violent protests to shut down the government. Do you share those sentiments?
Yes.
You think the government needs to go?
Absolutely. There's no question about it.
And
I know.
How? I mean, there's been so many elections and it doesn't seem to...
In what I subscribe to what Prime Minister Barak said. There should be a civil insurrection within the framework of democracy, civil disobedience, rioting in the streets, demonstrating in the streets, not cooperating with the government, because the government lost the trust of the people. It's true that the majority in parliament today is still held by the government. For obvious reasons, the elections took place 2.5 years ago, long before any of the events which took place since the 7th of October actually presented an entirely different reality. But for the last year and more, every single poll drawn in Israel shows that over 60% of the people don't trust the government. Not only that they don't trust, but they think that Prime Minister Netanyahu prefers his personal political and interest and legal interest over the national interest of the state of Israel. So, and considering the cost of what happened to the state of Israel, to the economy of Israel, to the lives of thousands of Israelis, soldiers and citizens and civilians, and also to the reputation of the state of Israel across the world. Israel has been widely popular for good reasons. Israel is a fantastic country with great achievements, which won the admiration for good reasons of the international community. And now there is a feeling that Israel is becoming slowly but gradually into a pariah by the international community. And this is all the outcome of calculations which have nothing to do with the real interest of the state of Israel. This is precisely where extraordinary measures must be taken. And this is what I believe Prime Minister Barak didn't ask my permission or my approval, but what he says reflects the attitude of many, many Israelis because of what I've described now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Israel's ongoing operation is putting the hostages' lives at greater risk because of this prolonged bombing campaign?
Yes, that's precisely what I say. There is a serious, serious danger. There is a chaos and anarchy which is spreading rapidly. In Gaza, we will lose the hostages.
Do you think that the Prime Minister is showing a careless disregard for their lives?
This is an inevitable understanding of what is actually taking place.
Just finally, so do you think other Western leaders, Israel's allies, should be doing more to hold the Netanyahu government to account?
Well, I think they hold the government of Netanyahu to account in a very explicit and forceful manner. And I have to say, I had those, there are many leaders that speak against the government, against Israel, criticizing us, who are traditionally and consistently were against us no matter what we do. I don't take this as an example. But when I hear President Macron, and I hear Prime Minister Sturmer, and I hear Prime Minister Carney, and I hear Prime Minister Meloni, and I hear Chancellor Merz and others who are dedicated friends of the state of Israel, have been for generations. I mean, their countries, them, the political system, all were friends of the state of Israel. When they spell it out in such a manner, you can't ignore it and just say, they are all haters of Israel, they are anti-Semites. This is nonsense. They care for the damage that is caused to Israel and the damage that is caused by Israel. And therefore, we have to listen to them very carefully and respect their judgment, not on the basis of an almost spontaneous rejection because they are against us, but listening to what they say, to the sensitivity and the subtlety and the seriousness of their warnings, and maybe to comply with it.
Actually, let's end on a look to the future. Do you have a hope that there will one day be a peaceful resolution, a two-state solution, a time when there will be peace between Israelis and Palestinians in the region?
This has been my life mission, and this still is the most important thing for the future of the state of Israel. At the end of the day, a reasonable person has to ask himself, okay, let's assume that we will be eliminating every single Hamas fighter that holds a gun or an RPG or a hand grenade, and we'll kill all of them. None will remain. There still will be 6 million Palestinians in the Gaza and in the West Bank. What are we going to do with them? What is the alternative? How can we make sure that in the future we'll not have to face what we have been facing and dealing with in the past? There can be only one way, which is a comprehensive peace agreement on the basis of two states. This is what I proposed to the Palestinian president in 2008, and this is what I have again promoted together with my Palestinian partner, the former foreign minister and the UN ambassador of the Palestinian Authority, Nasser al-Qudba, who together with me published a joint statement that tried to advance the beginning of negotiations for a two-state solution on the basis of what I proposed to the Palestinians, unfortunately, when they declined to accept it in 2008. But in no time is too late to adopt it now and to move forward in order to, once and for all, conclude the violence and the hatred and wars in the Middle East for a future of hope.
We thank you so much for your insightful comments and your candour here on Counterpoints. Mr. Olmert, we thank you for making the time. Ehud Olmert, former Israeli Prime Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.